The Writers Guild strike is over. Writers Guild strike is over after 148 days. Talks resumed at the end of last week, and we're officially behind this. And I think the writers had a really good reason to hold out, and I think they got a lot of their pressing demands answered in the nick of time before this thing either tied or surpassed the length of the longest Writers Guild Association or Writers Guild of America strike. So we're going to chat about this, though, because there are several points. There is some stuff I'd like to talk about, too, or at least mention. But I'm throwing it over to Dom because Dom is sort of our leading voice when it comes to pressing serious matters in the world of film. What you got for us, Dom? What's your assessment of this situation?
Success is that it is very much so. It's this has been one of the most effective strikes and visible strikes in America thus far. This is a hot strike summer, baby, and with it's honestly astounding how amidst all of this turmoil, the country apparently is turning back to that method. Not that it ever truly went away. Unions have been around, but they've been in hibernation on the macro, on the looking big picture at the country. They've been in they've been asleep since pretty much Reagan put them to sleep for a long while. And being Hollywood, being entertainment, the nexus of all that, this has been a pretty damn big one. And SAG-AFTRA still ongoing. Keep that in mind, as I think Steve mentioned earlier. SAG-AFTRA is still going forth. So we'll see. We'll discuss a little bit after how they'll be affected now that this has been accepted. So first, the WGA guild leaders have to sit down with the AMPTP leaders, and then they'll work out a deal, and then the guild leaders have to turn back to their memberships, which is the thousands of people that are union members, and they'll go like, "Hey, so do you think this is a good idea? Vote yes or no," and then we'll say yes. We'll go with them with a yes if you vote yes. And they voted yes, I believe yesterday or today even. So this is the deal that's going to go through. And Joe, if you could put on screen this incredibly effective table.
I was about to say, this is actually laid out really nice.
Before we even get into the
Very
details,
nice table.
this is how you do politics. This is how you communicate ideas to people.
Dude,
this is how you make an argument. Yeah, Joe?
This is how they teach us to do our presentations in school, actually, is doing tables like this. Like, they're teaching us how to do it this way.
For good reason.
Don't do any star wipe, don't do any dumbass fancy transition animations. Just give me a clean ass table, for the love of God. But anyway, this is very cleanly done in a left to right fashion. Left column, it's what the WGA proposed. Middle column, it's what the studios gave back. And it's the right column is what is actually going to be put into effect. This is the actual, the rightmost column is going to be what will basically put the writers to work, and what will be behind their backs when they go back to work for years to come. This is a very important 7-page table here,
which is great if you want to see the comparisons and what the end deal was, to see like, okay, well, how much did they get screwed over on the deal? And like, this
is a biased table, of course. This was released by the WGA. It is biased because you can read some of the language there, and it is from their point of view. I'm sure an AMPTP table would look very, very different. We probably have all sorts of animations that would piss me off, but still, we are clearly biased towards the writers here, and because from our assessment, it is they're the ones that ain't getting the money. So in any case, we won't go over every single one, but there are 4 big things to highlight. Which are, first and foremost, the minimums, also known as Appendix A, and they're kind of 2 separate things here, but it's the base, it's the money, it's the basic bread of it all. Minimums, what you're getting paid, baby. That's effectively kind of what a salary is. It's a union point of view, so it's not wholly that, but basically the union, they argued for a certain amount more, 6%, 5%, 5%, 655. AMPTP, what did they say? Oh, 432. And what was the actual deal? 4.54, 3.5. You don't have to calculate those numbers. Just know that there was a high number. Studios gave them a lower number. They met in the middle. There was a deal made.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a reason why that's first at the very top of the list, because that's a lot of nice money here. But below that, you have the big one of the big ones, which is streaming. So if you go to not episodic television, I believe it is.
I think it's at the top. Actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's back at they call it features.
Yeah.
And it deals with there's a fancy 6-letter term here called HBSVOD. It's dead center there. HBSVOD. That stands for. What does that stand for? That stands for high budget streaming video on demand. That's the fancy legalese term that they have to use. What we just know as streaming.
So a movie like Red Notice, a movie like Bird Box, a movie like that.
Yeah.
For us young folk, it's basically how all television is now. Is it actually what television is legally? No, because that's actually a separate part. That's more traditional broadcast television that's released on the networks. But effectively, for us youngins, it is that is how for anyone under the age of 40, this is basically what we mostly consume. So what is that? At least 20 minutes long, released on, of course, a streaming platform, etc. I'm not even going to get into that too much. Just know that it is now being recognized as something that, oh, hey, maybe we should have like residuals for. And if you look at some of the rejected offers in the middle column, the studios weren't even like, nah. Just that's the
required reading. Is I've been going down this list since you sent it. I've kind of just going down this list and reading the rejected or like the AMPTP offers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I almost just been zeroing in on that, and I would say a good third of these are just rejected our offer, refused to make a counter.
It's incredible. And of course, and again, to be somewhat fair, it could just be because this is a biased table. Keep that in mind. It could just be like the studios were still working it out, because AMPTP is not a monolith. It is all kinds of egos, all kinds of CEOs, all kinds of boards of directors. So it's very possible that they just couldn't get their own shit together in time, as opposed to being, mean about it. They were probably just being mean about it. But, there's keep that in mind. There's all kinds of decentralized aspect to it. But at the end of the day, they have to come together in a big fancy boardroom, which they did over the weekend. Couldn't have done it earlier during the week, so we have more time to digest this, but this is what hard, fast breaking news is. But effectively, streaming, it is now being recognized as an actual form of entertainment to be compensated for with residuals. Honestly, it's the same thing as the last writer's strike back in 2008, 9, I forget. But it's like, hey, DVD, maybe that's a real thing that we should compensate for, when DVD had been around since the 90s. But you know what? Better late than never. That's basically the whole thing with that streaming. Better late than ever. If you go to, I guess, halfway past slide 2 and towards slide 3, which is the writer's room. Here's where we get a little more wonky with some of it. How do we actually implement a writer's room? And what are some of the minimums going forward? Are we just shoving a person into a closet, calling that a writer's room, and then they just work on a day rate? Like, for real, the studios wanted to, I don't know if it's actually reflected here. That might have been more like some through the grapevine stuff, but there have been offers of like, hey, what if we just pay you per day? That way you could just give us a spec script for, work on that for a few days, and then we pass it off to another writer, and then we pass it off to another writer, and then you don't get credit at all, therefore no residuals, all the pork there that gets passed around there. No, now we get an actual writer's room. I guess we'll go to preserving the writer's room on page 3 with the pre-green light rooms there. If you see that, Joe, minimum staff of 6 writers, including 4 writer producers. Now you're probably thinking, aren't you just forcing the issue? Not necessarily. In fact, when you look at most TV shows and you look at written by, that's like the lead writer or even the creator.
Yeah.
A lot of TV shows, a lot of streaming TV shows, etc. There's a lot of like associate producers. There's a lot of writers that don't make it onto the Wikipedia page. And I get why, because, it's a lot. It'd be a lot of names. The page would be down to like 7 pages down below, and it would outrank all the articles to it. I get that. But know that there are real people underneath that name that you don't see and that need to get paid. and they weren't getting paid, or they were getting tossed around from here to there. So what does that mean? On the far right column, you see of that larger chunk there of preserving the writer's room. I don't want to read what's there, but if a that leading thing there, if a development room of 3 or more writers is convened, minimum staff of 3 writer producers is required. Development rooms 20 weeks or longer. They're actually implementing week-long minimums for a lot of these projects, particularly for streaming. So I could get even wonkier with it, but the cause and effect there is that there is an outline now. There are hard numbers. That you can look into a room and be like, hey, there's 6 people here. Okay, we can call that a writer's room. Before, it'd be so loosey-goosey, which, again, I get it. If you're like in a college group project, or you're in like a thing at the office, if you're not a writer, where it's like, hey, let's just work with these folks here. I get that it's easier, to just do that because we're all salaried employees of this corporate entity, whatever. But in Hollywood, where it's a lot of freelance work, where it's a lot of, hey, it's nice to be a little more grounded for something that's as abstract as writing for Hollywood. Does that make sense, gentlemen? I want to make sure that point has been put across, because
very well said.
It's hard for people to realize this who are not in the movie industry. Not that I am, but at least I can understand it. But it's hard to realize that when you live a life that is more so grounded, it's more structured. For writers, it's a lot less so, but they put out a lot of great content, a lot of creative stuff that millions, tens of millions, future generations, hundreds of millions of people will consume, and they deserve proper compensation while they're still alive and kicking. So with all that being said, the last big one, there's a lot of health insurance stuff that's extremely important, but the big thing here, pensions, it's very easy to hand wave, but will affect these people for decades to come. It's the second to the last thing there, even towards the bottom, underneath pension and health.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence. Now, there's been a lot of talk and debate on Twitter which I'm actually just getting to the hilarity of now, that Twitter has been a battleground for the writers amongst themselves, because it's all people who know how to write and construct like arguments because they're literal writers. But anyway, that's beside the point. Artificial intelligence. I just love this left to right. On the left side, regulate use of artificial intelligence on NBA cover project, et cetera, et cetera. We're very concerned about this, is what they're saying. Middle column, rejected our proposal, countered by offering annual meetings to discuss advancements and technology, which, granted, I think that's the WGA writing that for them, but I'm pretty sure at some point they floated, hey, let's discuss this. Let's discuss the advancements on technology on a yearly basis so we can touch base. Yeah, go F yourself. No, on the far right, we're going to have regulated use of artificial intelligence. AI-generated written material is not considered literary material. And that bottom part there, writer can elect. Oh, sorry, hold on. I think the point is, the studios can't just say, hey, the Zaslav 9000, we can credit that as a writer. That's the lead writer for this film, which we joke now, but 10 years from now, dude, it's extremely possible. Yeah. They cannot do that. They cannot do that now, which is what the fear is. ChatGPT even gets a name drop on that very last page there. When performing writing, says companies cannot require it, and they cannot use it unless the writer elects to do so, which is an interesting agreement too. A lot of writers, amateur writers, in my opinion, short-sighted thinking writers, will absolutely use things like ChatGPT in their spec script writing, in their forgetting all the fancy terms, but in their script writing, essentially, they will absolutely use it. They may even elect to do so, and it gives the studios. I'm pretty sure this was a deal that they made. It's like, hey, can you at least give us the chance? Can you at least give us the opportunity to exploit a writer? Which is effectively what the little piece there is. And you know what? The WGA probably looked at that and they were like, you know what? Yeah, sure. We don't like it, but that's on us to educate writers to please, for God's sake, do not use this. At least don't tell the freaking studios about it. But this is a good first step. It is a precedent. that we have not seen, to my knowledge, in any other industry. I'm giving a pregnant pause there because I said this at the beginning months ago that this writer strike is in American history, maybe even world history.
Yeah.
A legal precedent for to keep greater entities from taking advantage of artificial intelligence in writing or any kind of abstract idea. This, I'm pretty confident, this WGA agreement will be the basis for some Supreme Court ruling down the line. I'm not even joking.
It could also be looked at as the basis of just any future strike where AI. We don't know. I mean, again, like the way it's said here, discuss advancements in technology. We don't know where the hell that's going. We don't know what the hell the next field that this is going to involve. This strike is a good example of fighting back against the idea of that. I know it's one section in here, but I mean, like, this was like the big talk that everybody focused on, along with the residuals and, of course, health insurance that these writers deserved. But the whole talk of AI, this was like kind of like the battleground of it, because you're starting to see it with some other jobs. You go to McDonald's, you can either go to the cashier or you can go to the digital AI unit that's going to prepare your order for you. So it's like, this is like, a field that fought back against it.
Yeah, that second to last paragraph there, a part of the artificial intelligence there. Company must disclose to writer if any material given to writer has been generated by AI or incorporates AI generated material. Now, of course, the companies, the studios, they're going to do it. They're going to do it under the table, and they're not going to tell the writers in clear, blatant. We know this,
and it doesn't say they have to tell the consumers or credit or anything either. Now that might be a separate.
Thank you, Steve.
That might be. I just walked into where you were going to go with that. It's not like this has to say they really didn't say like that at the end of a movie or anything. It has to say like credit must be, it must be disclosed in the end credits of a movie that AI was used in collaboration with this film production. Credit doesn't have to be given there with AI.
Yeah.
And that was the big question we were talking about when this strike first started. I said, like, is it like a book, like citing a source from a book or citing a source from an external text, a peer-reviewed journal? Do you have to give credit to AI? Do you have to disclose that you used information or used like writing prompts or dialogue that you lifted from AI? You don't really know.
Yeah, 100%. This is... It seems so much that the world is reacting to disaster. It's strangely refreshing when we are technically reacting to things like ChatGPT and all that stuff, but it's really weird when we get preventative and it's like, hey, we actually like anticipated this and we did something about it. And it's not perfect, but this is a truly a first step, and dare I say the first of its kind, and one that I hope is a very effective, incredible blueprint for that the emerging threat. Is a very loaded term, but I'm not even judging the software itself, but it's how we know these conglomerates, these entities, these companies are going to use it. We know how they're going to use it. They're going to use it with reckless abandon and short-sightedly. So when people say, hey, this clause right here, or this section of the strike agreement is it may have saved Hollywood, it may have saved creative writing as we know it, they're not being too hyperbolic, because it could potentially feed itself. The threat of AI could feed itself into a corner. It could eat itself into nothing, to the point where we don't even know how any of this works anymore. So kudos to WGA. Yeah.
Can I add something really quick?
Yes, absolutely.
I know we're butting up against the end of the show here. I wanted to say this, though, that was interesting now, is that another thing that writers secured for this, obviously for streaming residuals, this is going to need to come into play. Studios provide the WGA details of a show's viewership, including total number of hours streamed worldwide. Foreign residuals are now based on the streaming service's number of foreign subscribers. Now, the first point is more applicable to what I'm going to say. This is an interesting kind of pivotal thing, that if the AI component wasn't in here, I think this would be more talked about now. Now that studios have to provide writers with viewership numbers, that accessibility has not, given the accessible nature of the world that we have right now at our fingertips, streaming numbers and viewership things for streaming movies and shows has always been very, very, very vague and not released to the public.
It's a black hole. It's
random. And like Netflix likes to say, like, Bird Box is one of our most watched movies. Well, what does that even mean? And what counts as most watched? If somebody let it go for 2 minutes, press play and watch 2 minutes, does that count as a view? Yeah. Studios are going to have to be more transparent with that in order for these streaming residuals to even be possible. And I think that's another fascinating component of this AI thing, or of this agreement that they worked out, was the fact that they now have to disclose streaming numbers in order for these residuals to get paid to the writers.
That is an unintended. I'm actually shocked that the studios gave in at all on that, because that is, dude, the power of shareholders, because, you know, we've set up all these companies this way. The power of shareholders that they have over the psychological thing over the CEOs is astounding. So I am shocked that one actually got through. I was like, well, of course they're going to keep that one, in the dark, because they need that cover so that they can have more wiggle room. Now this is getting downright democratic, where it's like, oh, you know how like a president can look at the number of votes that they got in the last election? Now CEOs can like, oh shit, we actually have like hard numbers to see how well we are running this company based on the content that we're doing. I know it's not that direct, but something more concrete here. When since the dawn of Netflix, one of the first streaming services, it has been so dark. So Steve, thank you. That was a big one that I almost glossed over, but thank you. Yeah.
And there's more that we could spend the next half an hour kind of diving into and stuff. Just sort of
real quick. How do we think this is going to affect SAG-AFTRA? Positive, negative? I won't even say anything yet.
What say you, Joe? You want to go first?
I mean, I was gonna say I hope it's a positive effect, because if the studio gave this much a damn about the writers, I'm pretty sure they're gonna give a damn about the people that, you know, they use in front of the camera, actually.
Yeah.
So I was like, and I bet too, like, if you would compare, like, I think, just glossing over this deal, it's a pretty decent deal. For the most part, they're getting what they wanted. It's not exactly everything, you know, they didn't get, like, but, you know, they met in the middle with a lot of the stuff. And a lot of the stuff
you aim high,
yeah.
you go forth high, and then you manage from there.
And like a lot of the stuff, I mean, this is probably the biggest thing. A lot of the stuff that was rejected by the studio, they at least got something out of it. Which is big. You know, it wasn't just like we couldn't get anything. We couldn't get them to budge. No, they stuck hard for the 160 plus days, and they ended up getting what they needed. 148 days. There it is at the bottom of the scroll. So yeah, I'm thinking with the Actors Guild, they'll probably even get a better deal, because it's like, those are the people that like the producers really use, like, or at least use in front of the camera. That like they're gonna need them to have like, you know, a better deal and stuff.
They're used as bargaining chips.
Yeah, they're used as bargaining chips.
They finally have it. Yeah, it's like, oh hey, I can actually.
There's a YouTuber called Man Carrying Things, and he did like, you know, this like the strike in a nutshell video, and it was like the writers went on strike, and the producers like, yeah, all right, go ahead, we don't care, no one really cares about you. And then when it was like the actors go on strike, they're like, oh crap, you're the people actually, you're the ones that people actually care about.
People, yes.
Go on.
People say that the actors strike seemingly came out of nowhere, like a WWE entrance. Nah, dude. Dude. They talk to each other. The writers and the actors, they talk to each other. They were planning this.
They were already on the picket lines with the writers. A lot of actors were already, because they knew this was coming.
We're just showing solidarity.
Yeah.
You know what you're fucking. And hey, that's how you do politics, baby.
That is, yeah.
That's how it's made. That's how it's done. That's how you get shit done.
I'm telling you, even though
that's just smart politics.
Even though we see this deal done with the WGA, don't be surprised if next week you still see some writers out on the picket lines with SAG-AFTRA.
You know, be heaven. IATSE and Teamsters, just like, hey, I'm gonna park my truck right here for about 100 days. No, it's not gonna happen. But still,